Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor and welcome back to my craft room. I'm so grateful to have you here. Today is the 6th of the month, which means it's time for some new Spellbinders Club kits. And I have the BetterPress Plate of the Month as well as the Clear Stamp and Coordinating Die Club kit of the month. And let me just say, this card ended up being quite a labor of love because how I imagined it is not how it turned out at all. About halfway through this video, I'm going to be questioning all of my life choices, but I think I recover quite well and I'm very happy with how this card turns out. So I'm starting with creating a watercolor background using some Distress ink products. I'm starting with Distress Oxide in Shabby shutters, and I'm just ink squishing, splooshing, whatever you want to call it, onto a piece of watercolor cardstock that I trimmed down to fit on a 5x7 card. And this is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, so just slightly smaller. That doesn't matter because I end up completely changing what I'm doing, as you'll see. I am taking now Shabby Shutters in Distress ink and ink blending the edges and a little bit over where it was still pretty white or off-white from the watercolor paper. And then I'm taking one of my mica sprays. This is from Halloween set number 4, and just splattering on some of that beautiful mica splatter around the edges of that background piece. So while that is off drying, I'm going to stamp my adorable penguin images. I have a thing for Christmas penguins this year. I don't know why, but I'm loving them, all of them. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this stamp set. And I want to do some watercoloring. So I'm going to emboss my images with some VersaFine Clair, and this is Medieval Blue. It's the first time I've used this color, and I don't know why, because it's so beautiful. It's like a navy blue, but still a bit royal colored, if that makes sense. And I stamped all of my images twice and then embossed it with clear embossing ink. And when I say twice, I mean I layered 2 layers of ink when I stamped my images. I'm going to zoom in here and speed it up just a bit so you can see some of my watercoloring. This is a hop today with lots of other Spellbinders creators. This is not a Spellbinder sponsored hop in any way. We're not giving anything away, but we wanted to share with you inspiration on how you can use your club kits. A lot of us have different club kits that we are, I guess you could say, influencers for. Which is so weird to say. I don't like calling myself an influencer. I feel so silly. But technically, we're on the influencer team. So while I have the clear stamp of the month and BetterPress plate, there are others with the large die, small die, embossing folder, 3D embossing folder, wax seals. There's so many amazing different clubs that you can get from Spellbinders that will just, really help you grow your collection. Or, if you're kind of the person that has full set syndrome, there are so many different combinations that you can get of the kits. One of them is going to suit your crafting needs super well. I also love the Glimmer Hot Foil kit, so while I'm not on the influencer team for that, I do get that kit myself, and I usually share some inspiration later in the month with that hot foil kit as well. So I'm coloring in all of my images using Distress watercolor pencils and my water brush. This is a technique that I prefer to use with these watercolor pencils. I keep them in rainbow order, so while there are 3 sets, I have them in rainbow order, so I can't tell you which set they come from, but use what you have, use alcohol markers for these adorable images. You can use another kind of watercolor. I just had some fun and tried to keep with the same kind of color, that shabby shutter green. I brought in some teal. I had dark blue with my stamped images. And then I brought in more of a, pine green as well. Oh, and orange, of course, for the beaks and feet of my little penguins. So after they are done being colored, I use the coordinating dies to cut them out. And I'm going to move into now the Better Press part. And this is where I don't like how my card turned out. And as I'm editing, I actually do kind of like how it turned out. You'll see the layout, but when I was making this, it didn't look like anything I wanted it to look like. And so in my mind, I hated it. But as I'm, I've taken a break, I'm editing, I'm reviewing, it actually turns out pretty cute. So I put my tree in kind of like the upper corner on the BetterPress system, and I inked it up with a blue ink. This is Cosmic Sky from the Regal Tones mini ink set, and I ran it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6. I have the black one, which is an exclusive to scrapbook.com, and you can see it's, in the upper corner, and I'm already kind of not liking it because it feels too off-centered, but I wanted to add the stack of penguins. I wanted so badly to have these penguins and this tree together on a card. So I'm layering it out and I just don't like it. I don't know why I didn't like it. Like I said, I'm doing my voiceover and looking at it and it's still really cute. I could have kept going and maybe just added something to the top left corner. But in my head, it just was not turning out how I pictured it. And you know how that goes. When it's not when you picture, you're just like, I just want to throw this away. But I didn't want to throw it away because I liked the green and I liked the blue impression on the green. So I sat here for quite a while thinking, okay, how can I recover from this? I'm going to fussy cut it out. So I take my time and I cut around my image, the impression here from the BetterPress, and there is a nice, decent impression because it is watercolor cardstock. If you want a deep impression for your BetterPress plates and your images, definitely try the cotton panels from Spellbinders, but I am also a big advocate of using what you have. So I used watercolor cardstock for this particular card, and I think it turned out really nice. And here you can see I've rotated my layout. I'm going horizontal now, and I think I can fit everything in on my card, and I'm actually really loving it so far. And I grabbed a piece of this pattern paper from the Mary 6x8 pad from scrapbook.com. I thought the blues in this background paper matched pretty well with the blues that I had on my penguins. And I trimmed this down to be slightly smaller than 5x7. So instead of that 4 3/4, I actually did 4 7/8. Like it's tiny, tiny. You could just do a full 5x7, but I like a little bit of a border on my cards. And after I cut that out, I knew I wanted to pop up my images onto this background piece. So I'm going to start layering on some thinner foam adhesive I have. This is from Thermoweb. But I knew that I wanted to darken the edges a little bit. I wanted to bring in more of that dark blue to match my penguins. So I'm going to bring in chipped sapphire this time, and I'm using a blending brush to blend onto the edges and just kind of distress all 4 sides. And I'm so sorry I was so aggressive with my blending. My table was shaking big time. And then I took the ink pad and just kind of rubbed it against the edges to really have a dark edge to my paper, and I'm going to go ahead and use that as my background, and I really like this touch. I'm really glad I did this. Now I can peel off the release paper from the back of my tree. I'm using my grid mat to help me get it centered. Now this tree I believe is like slightly larger than 5 inches, so I will have to trim it down a tiny bit, but it's not noticeable. I'm going to bring in my Heavy Doodle foam this time. I tried to show a comparison of the two, but it was kind of hard to see. But the Heavy Doodle foam is thicker and perfect for like interactive cards, and it's thicker than my Thermoweb foam adhesive, so it will help with layering my cards with foam adhesive and still having those penguins, be popped up further than the tree. So I added my little trio of penguins to the right. I actually stamped another penguin. I did this cute little ice skating penguin, and I layered my scarf penguin on top of him. So I have like 2 piles of penguins, and it looks like he is throwing the present and candy into the air, but it really balanced out the card rather than having this big open space on the top left that if I just had one penguin. I went ahead and cut my 5x7 card. I scored it, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my super big adhesive roller and adhere this panel to my 5x7 card. And you can see that very slim little white border on my card. I just like that look. That's my thing, I guess. And then I'm going around and trimming off anything that is exceeding off the edges of my card. So the top of the tree, the bottom of the tree, and just a little bit of that penguin on the bottom right. And you can see I trimmed off a little bit of snowflake off the top and some of the image of the BetterPress impression on the bottom, but you can't tell. It turned out really great. And I added just a few pops of color with my Snowflakes glitter. It's a clear iridescent glitter. And it just adds a little bit more shine to the card. And I think it turned out so, so cute. I'm so happy. I'm glad I stuck with it. I think it would have looked perfectly fine and pretty, going with the tree in the upper right-hand corner looking kind of weird. But I'm glad that I pivoted and finished off with this adorable penguin card. So make sure you hop over to the next creator using the link down below in my description and have fun. And I hope you get lots of inspiration today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!